Infrastructure Committee, if you could please find your seats. We'll get going. We're going to start with our public comment period. We did not have anyone sign up for the public comment ahead of time. Is anybody out there in the gallery wishing to make a public comment to the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee today? Not seeing anyone, so we will conclude the public comment period and jump into our proposed consent agenda. So I have a proposed consent agenda for us. It is everything on our agenda except for committee item 2, which is RS 2024-880. Committee item 13, which is RS 2024-905. And committee item 16, BL 2024-628. Are there any additional items that anyone would like to remove from the proposed consent agenda for discussion, questions, comments, anything like that? Yes, sir. There's a substitute on that one so that it's off. Yes, sir. Okay, so with that, I'm going to read the full captions, and after that, if there's an item that you do want to bring off consent, that's fine to do it after I've read the captions as well. So on the proposed consent agenda, we have under resolutions, committee item 1, this is RS 2024-879 by Porterfield, Parker, Welsh, and Allen. This approves an application for an environmental and climate justice community change grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to the Metropolitan Nashville Mayor's Office to provide funding for the North Nashville and Bordeaux Hubs and Spokes project. Committee item 3, this is RS 2024-894 by Toombs, Porterfield, and Parker. This accepts a donation from Dickerson Pike Partners in the amount of $50,000 as a contribution toward infrastructure improvements in the vicinity of 55 Lucille Street. Committee item 4, this is RS 2024-895 by Greg, Porterfield, and Parker. This accepts a donation from RSD 1736-38 Lebanon Pike LLC in the amount of $105,000 as a contribution toward infrastructure improvements. Committee item 5, this is RS 2024-896 by Gamble, Porterfield, and Parker. This accepts a donation from Legacy South LLC in the amount of $55,000 as a contribution toward infrastructure improvements. Committee item 6, this is RS 2024-897 by Vo, Gamble, and Parker. This is a resolution authorizing Nashville Phase 1 property holder LLC to construct and install aerial encroachments at 512 Houston Street. Committee item 7, RS 2024-898 by Parker, Welsh, and Allen. This expresses support for the Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure's application for Nashville to host the National Association of City Transportation Officials, or NACTO, Designing Cities Conference in 2027. Committee item 8, this is RS 2024-899 by Porterfield and Parker. This approves a contract between the Metropolitan Government and Burnett Lime Company, Incorporated, for the provision of CalFlow lime slurry for Metro Water Services CalFlow lime feed systems. Committee item 9, this is RS 2024-900 by Gamble and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public water main for 2 properties located at 2198 and 2200 Batavia Street. Committee item 10, RS 2024-901 by Eastlick, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public water, sanitary sewer, and sanitary sewer force mains, fire hydrant assemblies, and sanitary sewer manholes for property located at 790 Burnett Road, also known as ODFL, North Nashville. Committee item 11, this is RS 2024-902 by Gamble and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept 1 new public sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 2121 Crestmore Road, also known as Crestmore Multi-Use. Committee item 12, this is RS 2024-903 by Gamble and Parker. This amends ordinance number BL 2023-49 to authorize the Metropolitan Government to modify the linear feet of sanitary sewer mains to be accepted and update map and parcel information for property now located at Williams Avenue unnumbered, also known as Williams Retreat Phase 2, Revision 1. Committee item 14, this is a late filed resolution by Councilmember Coupin. Resolution authorizing BB Broadway LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 209 Broadway. Thank you. I'm going to sign on to Councilmember Coupin's late filed resolution, allowing us to consider it without him being present. I read the letter explaining the nature of that late filed. So committee item 15, I'm sorry, I got to read the caption of Coupin's. Committee item 14, late filed resolution by Councilmember Coop and a resolution authorizing BB Broadway LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 209 Broadway. Committee item 15, this is BL 2024-627 by Johnston, Porterfield, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the granting of permanent and temporary construction easements to the city of Berry Hill on a parcel or property owned by the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. Committee item 17, this is BL 2024-629 by Greg, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to acquire permanent and temporary easements through negotiation, condemnation, and acceptance for the Graham Drive Stormwater Improvement Project for 3 properties located at 100, 102A, and 104 Graham Drive. Committee item 18, this is BL 2024-630 by Horton, Porterfield, Gamble, and others. This approves and authorizes the Director of Public Property Administration or his designee to accept a donation of real property located at James Avenue unnumbered. Committee item 19, this is BL 2024-631 by Coop and Gamble and Parker, an ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County to abandon existing public sewer manholes and easements for 13 properties located on Broadway and McGavick Street. Committee item 20, this is BL 2024-632 by Gamble and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to abandon existing public sanitary sewer mains and sanitary sewer manholes and to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 3 properties located at 253 Nesbitt Lane, 251 Nesbitt Lane, and 227 Nesbitt Lane. Committee item 21, this is BL 2024-633 by Kimbrough, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to abandon public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole, and existing public utility sewer easement rights, and to accept new public water and sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and sewer easements for 2 properties located at 3315 and 3317 John Millette Drive, also known as the Bordeaux Collaboration. Committee item 22, this is BL 2024-634 by Gamble and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public water and sanitary sewer mains, fire hydrant assemblies, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for 3 properties located at 3654 Hamilton Church Road and Hamilton Church Road unnumbered, also known as Hamilton Village. Committee item 23, this is BL 2024-635 by Rutherford, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public sanitary sewer mains, sanitary sewer manhole, and easements for property located at 1117 Barnes Road, lots 1 and 2. Committee item 24, this is BL 2024-636 by Webb, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole, and easements for property located at 1000 Rivergate Parkway, also known as In-N-Out Burger. Lastly, committee item 25, this is BL 2024-637 by Vo, Gamble, and Parker. This authorizes the Metropolitan Government to abandon existing public combination and sanitary sewer mains and manholes and a public utility easement, and to accept the relocation of public fire hydrant assemblies, new public sanitary sewer mains, and sanitary sewer manholes for property located at 446 Chestnut Street. All right, having heard the proposed consent agenda, do any additional items need to come off? Councilmember Evan Siegel, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for being late and not saving you from having to read these, but 1, 3, 4, and 5.
All right, we are going to remove committee item 1, RS 2024-879, 3, RS 2024-894, and 5, RS 2024-896. Okay, anybody else? Councilmember Hill, you're recognized.
Can you repeat those numbers again? I was trying to write.
So it's the ones that we just removed from the consent agenda are committee item 1, RS 2024-879, committee item 3, RS 2024-894, and committee item 5, RS 2024-896. All right, anything else need to come off of the consent agenda? Not seeing any, would someone please move and properly second the consent agenda?
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, so we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval of the consent agenda. 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. All right, first item not on the consent agenda is committee item 1. This is, I've already read the caption, but it's RS 2024-879 by Porterfield, Parker, Welsh, and Allen. Should I read the caption again, or is it fine to have read it earlier? All right, we are on RS 2024-879. Can we get a motion in a second, please?
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. I will go to lead sponsor is Porterfield, but Councilmember Evan Siegel, I will recognize you with any questions, comments, discussion.
Thank you, Chair. Since this deals with the North Nashville Bordeaux Hubs and Spokes project, I just wanted to get an update on those projects.
Thank you. We have folks from NDOT here, or this is actually a grant to the mayor's office, a grant application that would be awarded to the mayor's office. So I'll recognize Kendra Akbowitz from the administration. Sorry, you're recognized now.
Okay, thank you. So this is actually a grant application that we developed in partnership with multiple community-based organizations for the US EPA's Community Change Grant Program. It is a program that had a deadline of November 21st, 2024. For the most part, these are compiling several existing projects and then some new projects. So the hubs and spokes that we're talking about here are actually resilience hubs and spokes. So it's a combination of infrastructure improvements at several of our existing park community centers, particularly Hadley and Hartman Park. And then it also looks at installing new infrastructure to create our first all-electric campus at the new Nashville Youth Campus for Empowerment. In addition to those physical site improvements, it also includes funding for some modular sustainability and resilience improvements that would go within the project target area, which is essentially comprised of those 3 physical sites. And when I say resilience, modular resilience improvements, think of things like water bottle and filling stations, installation of cool sealant on streets, misting fans, a whole host of different things that could benefit the community with a climate adaptation perspective. It also includes funding for a future use feasibility assessment for the Bordeaux landfill. So as we all know, when there was a recent conversation about the disposition of dirt from the Titan Stadium, it reignited an intense conversation about what we could or could not do on that landfill site. And the intention here would be to work in partnership with the community to turn what's a very visible scar for the community today into an asset. So really understanding what we actually could do and considering environmental regulations, the law, also community desires for that site. It also includes a Green Jobs apprenticeship training program that we would be doing in partnership with Music City Construction Careers. So we would take their existing 3-week apprenticeship training program and add a 4th week specifically focused on green jobs training, and then make every effort to use the sustainability and resilience site improvements as training opportunities for folks in that program. There is also a budget provided for creation of a mobile education and environmental justice center that would be created in partnership with the Equity Alliance to tell the story of environmental justice here in Nashville. And that really rounds out the bulk of that application. And so the existing projects included are really those built infrastructure improvements. So we worked very closely with the Parks Department to make sure that we were looking at their future projections for maintenance need and their existing deferred maintenance budget to make upgrades that would be energy efficient and resilient, but also address kind of that backlog of deferred maintenance needs for Hartman and Hadley Parks. And then the nice component is obviously a planned installation on that new campus. And so if this funding was awarded, it would free up resources that have already been dedicated or would be dedicated in this next capital spending plan to that site for things like FF&E. Is that helpful?
Yes. I just have one
Yes.
quick question. So if it's already in that spending plan and this would free it up, I'm just a little curious on the timeline because the application had like dates like it would be decided in like last summer, but obviously then I guess it was amended and I just didn't know sort of the new timeline for how the application and process is going to
Yeah, so we developed the application really throughout last summer. We held about 11 different meetings with community groups and collections of community groups to develop and refine that application, and then actually did submit it on November 11th. And so from EPA's perspective, they know they're under a tight timeline. They're very interested to try to get these awards under contract. And so we're hopeful that we would hear whether or not these funds had been awarded prior to January.
Thank you for that thorough explanation and great questions. Any other discussion on RS 2024-879? Questions, comments, anything? All right, seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of 879, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval, 11 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. All right, next we have committee item 2. This is RS 2024-880 by Parker Porterfield Gamble and others, a resolution requesting the creation of a Transportation Improvement Program Implementation Advisory Committee and regular updates to the Metropolitan Council. Can we please get a motion and a second on this? All right, properly moved and seconded. Thank you. So I pulled this off of consent. I imagine other folks might have questions or comments about it, but I wondered if we might be able to go over to the administration to tell us a little bit about how y'all envision this process working with the advisory committee, how those folks are appointed, and the regular updates to Metro Council. As well, if you could tell us just a little bit about what's going on with the Transportation Improvement Program here in early December of 2024, now that it's been approved, and just where we're at with it, if you would, please.
Thanks, Chair Parker. So a lot of exciting updates to provide in this regard. As it relates to this committee, as many of you all know, we had two very robust advisory committees, one that was technical and then another that was intended to represent feedback from the general public and community. And so really at the core of this resolution is a desire to continue robust engagement throughout implementation of the Choose How You Move Transportation Improvement Program. And so we've crafted this in a way to allow for that continued engagement representative of a broad subset of different interests. The way it's structured, the mayor gets to appoint 9 of those, and then the balance is appointed by Metro Council. We've also tried, I think, very intentionally to ensure that this advisory group is aligning with existing roles and responsibilities and intersection points with council. So we spent quite a bit of time thinking through during Choose How You Move implementation, where are all the touch points that council would be involved anyways, and so how are we maximizing efficiency and alignment with existing processes. So you'll see here some required or minimum reporting requirements with existing committees. And again, the intention here is to make sure that everyone that has a vested interest and an existing intersection point with the work of this committee is informed. That's not to say that that's all the engagement that's going to happen. It could go above and beyond what's listed here, but wanted to establish that really strong foundation of transparency with the public and council in a way that aligns and isn't duplicative of existing responsibilities that folks have in this space. So that's a little bit on the sort of committee intention. Any questions on that piece before I talk a little bit more about how we've been spending our time?
Do any members have questions or comments specifically about the committee structure, the advisory committee, or intent? Not seeing any, if you'd like to address the next point.
Absolutely. And one critical item I left out when you were speaking there, council member, was we fully recognize that individual projects that will be implemented as part of the Choose How You Move program will necessitate advisory bodies and committees of their own. And so this advisory body that we're talking about in the resolution here is intended to be an umbrella structure. It's not intended to supersede or replace any individual or project specific committees, but it would kind of be that overarching group. Transitioning now to implementation, in the same way that this committee would establish a really strong foundation, we've also been spending a lot of time establishing organizational and operational foundation to stand up this program. So we have been working really closely with the procurement office as well as MTA's procurement to think about what resources we may need from a partnership perspective to establish strong program management. So we know today that the way our departments are established and the magnitude of this project and the required amount of collaboration, that we will need some support and partnership to help us execute on capital projects of this scale. So we've been having a lot of conversations with departments about what that sort of a structure would look like. And then again, with the procurement team about how to best go about making arrangements for that program management structure. We also have released a position posting for a chief program officer for the Choose How You Move program. And as you all know, this program is pulling in a variety of different types of projects. Some are very infrastructure in nature, others are more service in nature. And we feel the need to have a single person overseeing implementation of that program. And so that position was posted the day after the referendum vote, and I think recently closed just at the end of November. And so we'll be moving through a really robust interview vetting process. It's, I believe, a 4-stage process that we're contemplating at this point that would be a combination of screenings of resumes and review of resumes and ranking of those individuals, multiple virtual interviews, and then multiple in-person visits, as well as meet and greets with relevant individuals and subject matter experts. And then really kind of that third area that we've been working in was starting the process of establishing this transparency mechanism and advisory capacity. And so this resolution that we're discussing today. Lots of other individual conversations happening, but those would be the most significant improvements to share.
Thank you. And, you know, that's a lot of really great and helpful information for this committee and for us to consider this resolution and the process. I think one question that a lot of folks in the general public are going to have, and I've seen some comments from the mayor to this effect, but what can folks expect to see first as a result of having approved this on November 5th? Can you share any details about like what types of projects or what types of improvements the general public could expect to see?
So we're working through the sort of project prioritization from a feasibility perspective timeline currently. So that's another very active area where we've been doing a lot of behind the scenes work. I think from a practical perspective, there are several transportation and infrastructure related projects that sort of have been in the hopper and are shovel ready that folks will see move forward. There's also a variety of planning activities that are already underway. So for example, with the Gallatin Pike All Access Corridor, that work is very much underway and is significant way through kind of design and planning. It is likely that several of our other all access corridors will really start that planning process more formally. There's opportunity, I think, also to see individual signalization improvements on some of our corridors. I can't commit to, exactly where those may happen, but we believe that that's an area where we can make some improvements today. And then individual sidewalk projects will also move forward within that first year. And there are a variety of transit improvements that we think are likely. So an area where we've already started conversations is with the low-income fare program. There are also service upgrades that are likely to happen within this first year.
Excellent. And just on that, I'm sure that y'all are already planning to do this, but providing some kind of publicly accessible tracker or list or something where folks can see like, oh, well, this is what's in the hopper and what we're going to see early and what might be a few years down the line and what I might want to engage with and just things like that so folks can track this whole process.
Two things that are directly responsive to that. We are planning for a robust performance management framework, and I think we'll see that performance management framework dovetail with a lot of the communications and engagement activities, including this advisory group. Some of those performance management tools will be really helpful from sort of internal operational back-end project coordination, but there will be a variety of metrics and pieces of information that will also be shared with the public. And the intention there is, again, to keep the public informed as to progress associated with this work. We also will be developing a standalone website that intends to do exactly as you're mentioning, share information with the public and report out on progress. And so that will be an ongoing effort. It won't be a one-time thing. And I imagine as individual projects are completed, we'll also be announcing those as well.
Thank you very much. Very, very helpful. Does any other committee members or members that are present have questions, comments, discussion on the resolution before us? Councilmember Allen, you are
I
recognized.
think this is actually just on the improvements, which may not be fair. When you talk about service improvements, is that like additional higher frequency on lots of routes already?
It is higher frequency on some of our more local service today.
Great. Okay. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none. So we're going to take a vote now on RS 2024-880. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval, 11 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. All right, next item not on consent is committee item 3. This is RS 2024-894 by Toombs, Porterfield, and Parker. This accepts a donation from Dickerson Pike Partners in the amount of $50,000 as a contribution toward infrastructure improvements in the vicinity of 55 Lucille Street. We've got lead sponsor Toombs, but I will go first to Councilmember Evan Siegel, who requested this come off consent. Councilmember Evan Siegel, you're recognized. Oh, I'm sorry. We need a motion, I've been reminded. If we could get a motion and a second on this. All right, properly moved and seconded. Councilmember Evan Siegel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I actually have the same question for 3, 4, and 5, which is like, what are we improving and how did we come up with the amount?
All right, I see Representative of NDOT back there. If you'd please introduce yourself, sir.
Good evening, Matt Purvis, the Council Liaison for the Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure. So for the donations above what is required as part of the site plan condition approval, usually those are like enhanced pedestrian crossings or kind of the real low tier projects, not as high as like a signal upgrade or things like that, but kind of the lower tier crosswalk markings, pedestrian enhancements, ADA ramps, things like that, that go above and beyond what the MMTA requires. Because what our multimodal traffic analysis requires is already baked into what we condition upon the site plan. But anything above and beyond that, sometimes we condition them on the legislation. Sometimes we ask for donations. In the case of asking for donations like these, typically it's because we can get them done faster than waiting on their entire site to be finished before they do them. Or either that, or we're planning on doing them already, and we are asking them to donate to help that.
Thanks for that background. I think in the past when we have seen these, they have been tied to a specific action that is being taken. So I guess I'll just ask specifically for each one of these. For number 3, what are we contemplating doing with the money and how are we tying it to that?
So I know that number 3 is enhanced pedestrian crossings. I'm waiting to hear back on the other 2 specifically, and I can let you know as soon as I find that out.
Can we move them to the heel then, and so that we're not voting on them before we know?
We can. 4 was approved on consent.
Oh, I thought I pulled 3, 4, and 5. I thought I heard 95 and 96.
I believe you pulled 1, 3, and 5.
Oh, I thought I said 1, 3, 4, 5, but
So we
And-
can
but-
move 3 and 5 to the heel for the purposes of getting
Okay.
further information about 5. And if further information is available about 4, that would
4,
be
that'd be
welcome
great.
as well. But, and then if we don't have that information by the time we get to the heel, then we will determine what to do at
Okay.
that point.
And then I guess my question, maybe it's like a finance question or a legal question, is if the donation doesn't specify what it's for, is it actually tied to that? How do we make sure that this money actually goes for the thing it's supposed to go to?
Does anyone seek to be recognized on that? Director Darby.
The donation is being made with the understanding that it would be spent on the specific improvements, infrastructure improvements that have been discussed between the donor and the department. But yes, it's not specifically noted in the legislation as far as what the specific project is. And so presumably, once the funding was delivered to the department has it would potentially have leeway to spend it on something else, but I suspect that the department is asking for the funding for specific projects as opposed to just putting funding in their coffers. It is a donation.
I'm seeing Mr. Purvis in the back. Would you like to hear from Mr. Purvis, council member?
I was going to concur with Director Darby. It's ultimately, if it's not specified to a project, it is up to departmental discretion. However, in following with the legislation, it's our commitment to spend it in the vicinity of the project as we find projects that fit the needs. And regarding the specific dollar amount, they're estimated based on what we see as the need in the area at the time of the negotiations.
I
Councilmember.
think the sponsor has a question as well. I have one follow-up, just sort of comment, but I can wait.
I'll go to Councilmember Toombs. Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me, even though I'm not on the committee. Excuse me. So in my experience with donations like this, or in situations where development teams, property owners have agreed to do additional infrastructure improvements, and that typically there's, where it's been in the legislation, like a zoning legislation, there may be like a $50,000 cap, and that development team works with NDOT. And I have not had any experience where that has not gone well, and that's something that's happened a lot in my district. This project is in my district. And so anytime we can get some additional infrastructure improvements, even if it's going towards pedestrian safety, particularly with this project where it's in that Dickerson Pike corridor, so anything we can get is appreciated. So I would ask that the committee support it and vote to approve it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Evan Siegel.
I'd just like to thank the sponsor for that. I think just mindful that we've had a few of these come through this committee that maybe didn't totally make sense in what we were getting, and that the money wasn't tied to the actual improvement that the council member might have expected. I would just ask that the department be a little bit more clear in these, as they have been in the past, so that they are tied to the actual improvements, so that we don't end up getting this money and then it doesn't go to what it's meant for. I'm fine with this today, but I know in the past we've been a little bit more specific, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I see Deputy Director Freeze in the back, so I'll recognize.
Yes, Councilmember. We can absolutely commit to providing more detail in those letters, and also providing that in the bill analysis, actually what it's for and what the estimate was based on. So I definitely understand what your concerns are. Actually, seeing that in the legislation is important.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, so with that discussion having unfolded, Councilmember Evan Siegel, do you still wish to move these to the heel? Councilmember Evan Siegel. You think we have enough information? Okay, so we are going to consider item 3 now for a vote for a recommendation from the committee. Again, we're on RS 2024-894. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any not voting? Recommend approval, 11 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. On to committee item 5. This is RS 2024-896 by Gamble, Porterfield, and Parker. This accepts a donation from Legacy South LLC in the amount of $55,000 as a contribution toward infrastructure improvements. Can we get a motion and a second, please? All right, properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval, 11 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. All right, next, that was not on consent, we have committee item 13. This is RS 2024-905 by Eastlick. This is a resolution urging the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department to increase traffic enforcement and the Nashville Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure to improve the physical environment for everyone using the road. Can we get a motion and a second, please? All right, properly moved and seconded. We do have the lead sponsor present here, so I'll recognize Councilmember Eastlick for an explanation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the time with this committee as I'm not a member of it. I would like to move to defer this for 2 meetings.
All right, can we get a second on the committee member's motion? All right, properly moved and seconded for a 2-meeting deferral. Any discussion on a 2-meeting deferral? All right, Councilmember Benedict, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to have an explanation for the deferral.
From the sponsor.
Yeah.
You're asking for, okay. I will go back to the lead sponsor, Councilmember Eastlick, for an explanation on the request for a deferral.
Sure. We have a lot going on that involves our police department in this upcoming meeting, as well as looking for time to work with the council member that has offered a substitute, see if we can't come together on some wording and then get past this major hurdle that we have tomorrow night.
Thank you for that explanation, sir. I also see Councilmember Coopin seeking to be recognized on the deferral. Councilmember Coopin.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me because I'm on the committee. But to speak to my colleague's question about the 2-meeting deferral, and hopefully the council member who brought the substitute would be supportive of this as well. I think that the things that folks on this body and others are trying to prevent, namely going back to where driving while black was, which we can't go back to, we shouldn't go back to, contrasted with the efforts that I think we're trying to bring forward, which is moving violations, high injury networks, focusing on people that are, there's an individual Snapchatting while driving 110 miles an hour down the interstate, and then he hit and killed 2 individuals. The person that drove drunk a couple weeks ago on 4th Avenue and ran and killed an uncle on the side of the road. I think there's a way to get to making sure that we are enforcing those issues without going back to the driving while black efforts. I've been reading through that report. I've been meeting with groups like Gideon's Army, People's Budget Coalition, NAACP, MHC, CRB, and I think this is an important time to have a comprehensive conversation to make sure we do get this right. So I think the 2-meeting deferral gives us the time to work on this and come together to a comprehensive solution.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other discussion on the 2-meeting deferral before us? Seeing none, all those in favor of a 2-meeting deferral on RS 2024-905, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend a 2-meeting deferral at the request of the sponsor, 11 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. We have 1 item remaining. This is BL 2024-628 by Nash, Porterfield, Gamble, and others. This approves a participation agreement between the Housing Division of the Metropolitan Planning Department and Sojourn Nolensville Apartments, LP, to provide enhanced pedestrian signaling for Sojourn Nolensville Apartments, LP's proposed development, as well as other existing properties in the area. Can we get a motion and a second? All right, properly moved and seconded. We have a substitute, which I might ask Director Darby for an explanation of. I thought I had a printed copy. I'm not seeing it. Director Darby, since we don't have the sponsor present, can you give us a brief explanation of the substitute?
The substitute makes a change to the proposal number from the planning department.
So it sounds like a housekeeping substitute. Would a committee member consider moving the substitute?
Second.
All right, properly moved and seconded. So we have the substitute before us. Any discussion on the substitute? Seeing none. All those in favor of the substitute, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend. It's been moved to substituted and properly seconded. Any discussion on the bill as substituted? Councilmember Allen. Oops, I have too many mics on. I apologize. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've got some experts in the back. If we can just get an explanation of how these participation agreements work and it, because I'm thinking this is potentially an affordable project, can we talk about whether this is something that is costing this project more to do or saving this project money? If that's a relevant question.
All right, we'll go to the public podium. If you could please introduce yourself.
Travis Miller with the Housing Division, work with Hannah Davis to administer this program. To address your question, Councilmember Allen, this program is attempting to increase the pedestrian mobility and safety surrounding these affordable housing developments, not at the obstruction of the developer themselves. So we work with NDOT to find the kind of improved ways we can have infrastructure there without putting any more encumbrance onto the developer to then make the housing no longer affordable, but we're still getting those infrastructure improvements that we'd like to see to benefit the residents of that development.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this one? All right, so we've got BL 2024-628 as substituted before us. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? All right, recommend approval of 628 as substituted, 11 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting. And I believe right here at 4:45, we have disposed of our whole agenda, so I will call this meeting adjourned. We went ahead with that one.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.